Hello, this is astrologer coach Sonja Francis, and today we're going to be talking about the upcoming full moon in 22 degrees of Gemini, which will also be another supermoon, which will be exact December 13th at 7:06 p.m. East Coast time in the US, which is also New York time, or 4:06 p.m. Pacific time, which is also LA time. Now, this is the last of 4 super full moons in a row. And what is a supermoon? A supermoon occurs when it's either a full moon or a new moon, and it's at the closest distance to the Earth, and therefore it's very, very powerful. And that's why it's called a supermoon. And so this often, especially with a super full moon, this often means an increase in emotion and reaction, and also greater awareness around the issues that are connected to the full moon energy in question. So this month it's about the polarity between Gemini and Sagittarius. Now, I will also address this in more detail in my next monthly forecasting forum on December 13th. And you will get a chance to take a look at your own birth chart in relationship to this supermoon. So if you haven't registered yet, stay tuned. I have a holiday special for this month that you can take advantage of. And I will talk about all of this in more detail towards the end of the video. All right, so stay tuned. Now, with this full moon, we're dealing with the Sagittarian Gemini polarity, as I already mentioned, and we'll seek balance and integration around those two energies, right? And so something needs to be brought back into alignment. So let's take a look at both of these energies by themselves and see how we can connect them, right? So Sagittarius teaches us a wider perspective, asking us to look beyond the facts, beyond learned knowledge, to our life experiences and the wisdom that we gain from them. And Sagittarius is interested in the bigger picture and truth about life. And I already talked about that in my last new moon video in great detail. So for those of you who saw the video, you probably remember. Now, Gemini, on the other hand, wants us to stay connected to our immediate environment, our communities that we live in, our day-to-day mind, processing and sharing information as fast and as much as possible, because it's Gemini, it wants to move fast, right? So Gemini is interested in the spoken and written word, right? Spoken and written inwardly and outwardly, right? Now, we're being asked to integrate the Gemini mind energy, which is connected to information sharing and our conditioning, our mental conditioning, with the wisdom energy that comes from life's experiences and the quest for a larger truth or a bigger understanding. And that's connected to Sagittarius, right? So how do we integrate both of these energies, right? Now, the Sun in Sagittarius aligns with Saturn in Sagittarius. So this is asking us to make mature and responsible choices for the next 2 weeks around that Sagittarian search for higher meaning, right? So everything that we want to believe to be true. And so the questions you can ask yourself for the next 2 weeks: what guides my choices? What do I learn about life every day just by living it, just by being alive, right? And how does the experience of my current reality inform what I believe about life? So this is important, that the experience of our current reality, right? Not the reality of what we've experienced in the past for the last 10, 15, 20 years since we were born. But no, the experience of our current reality, how does that inform what I believe about life? And that's important. Now, all the questions from this video are also available on my website at AstrologerCoach.com via my weekly forecasts. So you can scroll down on my website to where it says weekly forecast and click on the link there, and that will take you to my weekly forecasts page. And after December 11th, or the evening of December 11th, you can go to that page and you will see my full moon post, and with all the questions that I'm asking in this video. But you can also sign up for them to receive them via email, those weekly forecasts. So feel free to email us at info@astrologercoach.com and write weekly forecasts in the subject line if you would like to receive it via email. All right? Now back to the full moon. Mercury, which is the ruler of Gemini, right? Because the full moon is in Gemini, is currently in Capricorn. And so that's important because we want to look at what is Mercury doing in this full moon chart. And it's aligning with Pluto in Capricorn and squaring Jupiter in Libra. So what does all this mean? With these alignments, there is an all or nothing attitude that we might have for the next 2 weeks. And we also have tremendous focus for the next 2 weeks. So this focus can tip into obsession if we're not careful and if we're coming from fear, right? So we want to pay attention to, are we coming from love? Are we coming from fear? Or are we coming from a neutral place? Or are we coming from fear, right? And as best as you can, choose your words really carefully when you're communicating, because your word is very powerful right now with that Mercury-Pluto conjunction. And if possible, speak from that deeply connected and empowered place, allow yourself to feel strong and empowered as you speak, and know that your word is powerful. So you also are either going to empower or disempower other people. So keep that in mind as you speak, right? And we're also invited with this alignment, with these alignments there, to grow and to evolve around how we communicate, right? So Jupiter in Libra is sort of like saying to us, okay, how do you communicate? Especially how does my communication land with others, right? So as I'm having this exchange with other people, how does it land? And so we may have to find creative ways to communicate from an empowered place or from a place of strength and neutrality, right? Rather than from a place of fear and feeling tense and unsettled. Or protective in some way, right? Sometimes when we're fearful, we try to protect ourselves. And so we may have to learn about our thinking processes and conditionings, right? So in the next 2 weeks, there is an experience or a stretching or a growing where we're learning a little bit more about our conditioning, how we were raised, what we were taught, right? And how this thinking within ourselves, how is that empowering us or not, right? So the upside of this Jupiter square with Mercury and Pluto is that we can be extraordinarily funny, interesting, and creative as well at this time, because there's sort of like we're moving in, we're trying to stretch and move differently. So this could bring out creativeness and humor as well, right? So ask yourself for the next 2 weeks, what is fact and what is fiction in my life? Or in my brain, in my thinking, right? What is fact and what is fiction? What is truth? And does truth exist? And how does love or fear influence my answers? And how does love or fear affect my thinking? And this is very important because as we're moving from a place of love or fear, that influences our thinking and our communications, right? So these questions are very powerful. So remember, with all the questions, you don't have to answer them right away. Just allow these questions to be there in the background for the next 2 weeks. Meditate with them, journal on them, sit with them, allow the answers to come to you as you're living your life in this next 2 weeks. See what shows up, right? Now, the other part of this full moon chart is Jupiter, because Jupiter rules Sagittarius, right? And so Jupiter is currently in Libra and is making a trine to the moon in Gemini and an opposition to Uranus in Aries. So again, there's a lot of connections with all these planets with this full moon chart. And what does it mean? So again, this brings a greater awareness of new possibilities and greater realities in our lives. And so it really opens us up. It gives us the opportunity to really open things up. And this alignment encourages us to engage in dialogue, to brainstorm with others and envision new possibilities, and to really have that interaction, with other people. And so you can ask yourself here, what might be possible if I opened up a dialogue with others about my unique perspectives? So what might be possible if I opened up a dialogue with others about my unique perspectives or my unique visions for life, right? And how might those perspectives shift when listening carefully and sincerely hearing another person? And this is a very, very important part of this energy, because Gemini is very much about communication. But communication means speaking and listening. And this is sometimes something we forget, because we're so interested in saying things that we forget sometimes to listen to what comes in from outside, right? So how might those perspectives shift when listening carefully and sincerely hearing another person, right? Really making an effort to be open to hearing another person. Now, a couple of days after the full moon becomes exact, Uranus and Mercury will both start their station phases, and that means that they will be slowing down out there in the sky. And as this happens, both planets' energies will become more exalted. Now, Mercury in Capricorn gets ready for its retrograde phase that begins on December 19th. So the station is the preparation towards that retrograde phase. Uranus in Aries gets ready to go direct after a 5 months retrograde phase. And so that station phase is the preparation to moving forward again after December 29th. And so during these station phases, when these planets are more exalted, our communications and our need for progress become more important for us at that time, right? Because Mercury rules communications, Uranus rules the need for progress, right? And freedom. So all of this, I'll be talking in more detail about these planetary movements in my next forecasting forum. And so if you have been, or if you are thinking about taking part on December 13th in that forum, stay tuned for the details of the holiday special towards the end of this video. Just wanted to remind you again. And the full moon also has 2 T-squares. So we're going to be talking about these 2 T-squares. There's a lot going on with this full moon, I know, right? So the first T-square has to do with Chiron and Pisces being the focus point. So Chiron is making a square to the moon in Gemini and the sun and Saturn alignment in Sagittarius. So Chiron is really making a square to the full moon, right? And so Chiron is becoming sort of like a focus point for this chart. And a T-square is always a time where we want to stretch and grow, where we want to move beyond how we know ourselves. We want to really expand who we are, right? And so we're invited to release anything that no longer supports our growth, especially our spiritual growth, you know, on an individual and on a collective level. And because the empty leg of this T-square lands in Virgo, right? So the opposition of that focus point is Virgo, and that's the point that's empty. We are invited to make choices from a place of clarity rather than judgment, right? So Virgo, the highest vibration of Virgo is clarity rather than judgment. And it's all about healing as well, right? So ask yourself, what might I experience if I released all judgment towards myself and others? What might be possible if I embraced my imperfection as actually perfect? Now that's a very powerful question, right? Because if we can see our imperfections as perfect, that shift in perception, that's huge. That can be really huge in our own experience of life, of ourselves, and how we connect with ourselves, right? And then another question, could I try being kind and clear at the same time? You know, sometimes we think that kindness means that we have to sort of like give up our goals, or we have to kind of like not be focused or not be specific, right? But kindness, you know, the heart can still connect to the clarity of mind, right? Kindness comes from the heart and clarity comes from the mind, but they can connect with each other. Right? So could I try being kind from the heart and clear in the mind at the same time? And then there's a couple of more questions that I think are really, really powerful as well, especially with that Virgo energy, with that empty leg, you know, bringing that Chiron experience, that healing experience into the empty leg of Virgo. What works for me? Virgo always asks what works for me and what doesn't. You know, what works, what doesn't, because Virgo likes to improve things. Virgo likes to make things better so that they work more smoothly. So it's not about good or bad. It's not about right or wrong. It's more about what is efficient and what isn't, or what is functioning and what isn't functioning, right? It's about the functionality of things, right? And so in our lives, you know, how can we ask ourselves, what works for me, what doesn't? So, and what do I see when I look at those discoveries that I'm making as I'm asking these questions? Through a lens of neutrality, right? And that's very important, because what we see when we know for ourselves what works and what doesn't work, but we can see it as neutral rather than as good or bad, right or wrong, right? And that's where the judgment comes in usually. That's the lower vibration of Virgo, is that judgment of good, bad, right, wrong. But the higher vibration of Virgo is not about judgment. It's about clarity. It's about understanding from a neutral place what works and what doesn't. So really work with these questions during the next 2 weeks. And I also want to say that with so many planets and points in mutable signs, we're feeling this, with these mutable signs, we're feeling that restlessness. We're feeling pulled in many directions, right? So it's definitely keeping us busy and it's keeping us sort of like active, but it also brings up feelings of being ungrounded or overwhelmed, right? So ask yourself throughout the next 2 weeks, am I feeling overwhelmed right now? Right? Just ask yourself that over, like, as you know, whenever you can. And if the answer is yes, as best as you can, center yourself in the here and now. Allow yourself to be present. You know, very often our mind jumps back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, past, future, future, past, future. But very seldomly are we really present in the here and now, right? So listen to what's inside of you beyond the mind, because the body, our feeling body and our physical body and our energy body, that is always connected to the present moment. The only thing that's not connected to the present moment is the mind energy. It just moves. It's like a ping pong ball that goes back and forth in all these different dimensions, right? So trust your intuitive self, trust your soul, trust your body, right? Trust that the present moment is always here. You're always connected to the present moment. If only you shift your focus and drop it more into the physical, emotional, energetic body that's in the here and now, right? Now, following our inner guidance on a daily basis is going to be very important for the next 2 weeks. So is releasing any victim-based thinking, right? So Chiron and Pisces, we want to release victim-based thinking. And so the best way to notice victim mentality is to catch ourselves when we blame others, when we blame life for our current experiences, for our current circumstances, right? So if you catch yourself doing this, just acknowledge it gently, be kind to yourself, and just remember you're human. We all do it from time to time. We all blame others or life or even ourselves from time to time. But assigning fault, whether it's to ourselves or other people, is not what works, right? So it doesn't really work to assign fault, because that's what gets us stuck. Because whenever we assign fault or blame, we get stuck in the past because we cannot move forward. At that point, when we're saying this is somebody's fault, my fault, this person's fault, life's fault, then you get stuck in the past, right? And rather than asking whose fault is it, acknowledge what is currently present in the here and now, what is so, without judgment, just from a place of neutrality, right? What is currently so? And ask yourself, where do I go from here? What could I learn from this? What do I want to create next? And these 3 questions are very powerful. Whenever you're experiencing a sense of blame, whether it's towards yourself or somebody else, you know, allow yourself to ask these 3 questions and stay in the present moment, rather than holding on or being attached to what was and what happened, even if it's just a moment ago, even if it's just 5 minutes ago or a minute ago, that's still the past, right? The present moment is always the choice that you're making in the present moment. So ask yourself these questions. If you want to move forward, where do I go from here? What could I learn from this? And what do I want to create next? Right? Because the creation of everything that happens in the future always happens in the here and now. So the now moment, the present moment, is the most powerful moment of choice. And you always have choice. Choice is always yours. So as best as you can, be kind to yourself. Remember that true healing comes from understanding, embracing, and even loving who you are deep down. A spirit being who lives in human form, right? We're spirit beings living in human form, and it's so important to remember that, because we so often forget that we are spirit beings, that we are so much more than we think we are, right? Now you can ask yourself here, what would happen if I embraced my own humanity an extra 5% right now? If I could just embrace my own humanity an extra 5% right now. Right? Now the second T-square with this full moon has Pluto in Capricorn as the focus point. And so Pluto is making a square to Uranus in Aries and to Jupiter in Libra, right? So Uranus and Jupiter are opposite right now. And Pluto is making a square to both of them and is that focus point. So this T-square also asks us to stretch and grow, right? Just like any T-square. But we're invited to empower ourselves in the world by connecting to our feeling body, understanding our needs, especially our need for safety, right? And so we're also invited here to stretch towards a more authentic and empowered society. Pluto is in Capricorn right now, right? So this is about our society as well. You know, who are we in the world? One that honors the unique individual contribution of everyone, right? Because Uranus is in Aries, so we want our individuality, we want to contribute to our society. And we also want to own our fears and own our less attractive characteristics in the world, right? And this is something we want to do on an individual and collective level, right? Pluto in Capricorn says, own your fears, own who you are in the world, you know, become whole, right? Be all of who you are. So how can we bring this about, you know, globally, collectively? The best place to start is always with ourselves, right? To honor ourselves and express our own unique spark, to express our own uniqueness. And our own ability to our own vision that we have for ourselves and for the world, right? Now I talk a lot in these forecasts, in these videos that I do, about the power and importance of self-care, and I'm sure I mentioned it in my last video as well. So once again, though, it is worthwhile talking about it because the empty leg of this T-square, with Pluto being the focus point in Capricorn, lands in Cancer, because Cancer is opposite Capricorn, right? And so we're reminded to nurture ourselves, especially our feeling body, right? And so we're being invited to pay attention to our basic needs, our need for love and acceptance, our need for control or not wanting to be out of control, and our need for safety and security, right? So I invite you to do a quick experiment with me right now. And if you don't have the time to do it right now, just maybe press the pause button and come back to it. But this will take just a couple of minutes. I want you to just close your eyes and get in touch with your feeling body. And you may also want to put your hand on your heart to just get more connected to your feeling body, because it's not up here, it's in our body, right? And then I just want you to, as you close your eyes, I just want you to check and see if you feel acceptance in this now moment for yourself, for others. Just check and see. And focusing on the now moment means not going into memory or past experiences. It also means not going into imaginary futures or concepts. It means really just being in the here and now, right here, right now, not in the past, not in the future, right? So in the now moment, do you feel acceptance for yourself, for others? And just check in and just gently answer that for yourself, quietly. And now ask yourself, just as an experiment, could I release all my wanting to be loved and accepted just for right now? And just check in. And even if you don't feel that you're wanting to be loved and accepted, just as an experiment, release that wanting. Because wanting usually expresses lack, right? Expresses I don't have something and therefore I want it, right? So could you release all your wanting to be loved and accepted just for right now? And feel free to also use your breath as you're breathing out to really releasing that wanting, that lack. And now check and see if you feel in control in this now moment. Just check and see if you feel in control in this now moment. And remember, don't go into the past, don't go into the future, just right here, right now. And then ask yourself, just as an experiment, could I release all my wanting to be in control? And again, if you're struggling with that, note that I'm not asking you to let go of being in control, just of wanting it, right? The lack of it. So could I release all my wanting to be in control? And now check and see if you feel safe in this now moment. And then ask yourself, just as an experiment, could I release all my wanting to feel safe and secure? And remember, we're not going into the past, we're not going to the future, just in this now moment. Could I release all my wanting to feel safe and secure? And now check and see how you feel. You feel more grounded or less. You feel less anxious. You feel more safe. Just check and see how you feel. And really feel free to use this questioning for the next 2 weeks and go back to the recording and use it, especially when you're feeling ungrounded or when you're feeling flustered or stretched or anxious in some way. Feel free to go back to this and use this on a daily basis, right? Use this as your support. And as best as you can, also for the next 2 weeks, take breaks or simply slow down. Allow your mind to relax. It's important to explore ways to stay centered and grounded, right? And so seek tools or people to help you with that exploration. You know, any form of meditation, any form of, walk in nature, breathing exercises, practicing being in the here and now, whatever way you can get that support, use it, take the support, whether it's a tool that you have or a person that you know, someone that you know that can support you with this. Use it, right? And for the next 2 weeks also ask yourself, am I ready to let go of what I would like to be true rather than what is true, right? Am I ready to let go of what I would like to be true? And what might happen if I looked through the fears and beliefs that block me from embodying my own truth? How can I walk my own truth and let go of the fears and beliefs that keep me from walking my own truth, right? And then last but not least, what nourishes my soul? And I think that's a really great question. What nourishes my soul? And just really kind of go within to ask yourself that. And again, you don't have to answer these questions right away. Just sit with them, journal on them, meditate on them. Allow the answers to come to you within the next 2 weeks, okay? Now, if you have an ascendant, career point, or personal planets in 20 to 24 degrees of Gemini, Sagittarius, Virgo, or Pisces, then you're definitely going to feel this supermoon more strongly. And even if you don't have personal planets in those degrees and signs, the house placements in your natal chart affected by the full moon are equally as important. So you want to take a look, which areas of your life are up for development in the next 2 weeks, right? Which areas are up for integration for the next 2 weeks. So take a look at where is 22 degrees of Gemini and Sagittarius in your birth chart. Where does that land in your birth chart, right? And what do those houses and areas mean? What life do they affect, right? What area of your life do they affect? And how can you create a balance or integrate those two areas, right? Now, if you don't have a birth chart, feel free to watch my video, How to Read Your Birth Chart. This video, you can either watch it on YouTube or you can email us at info@astrologercoach.com and just write recording in the subject line. It's also a really great video to watch before you join my monthly forecasting forum. And so if you're already a fan of my forecasting forums, stay tuned until the end of this video. I have a special offer for you too. But if you haven't joined us yet for the monthly forecasting forums, I want to just invite you to take a leap and join, because it's really the next best thing besides getting a one-on-one reading with me. Because we will be using our birth charts actively during the 90-minute webinar. We will look to see how the upcoming energies in late December, early January are impacting us personally by looking at where these energy patterns land in our birth charts. So please remember, that Uranus station that I talked about earlier, the supermoon in Gemini, the Mercury retrograde in Capricorn. These are all things that we're going to be covering and looking at in our birth charts, how these energies are impacting us personally, right? So if this is of interest to you, I have a holiday special this month only, which is 25% off the regular price. We will be coming together on Tuesday, December 13th at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time, and midnight London time. So if you're a night owl and you live in Europe, feel free to join us as well. If not, then feel free to get the MP4 video recording of the webinar. That's possible too. So you can join live or you can watch it as a recording, as a video recording. And so the regular fee for this forum is usually $24, but with the holiday special, it comes to only $18. So take advantage of that fee. It's only available this month. You can register now at AstrologerCoach.com by clicking on the link below the Saturn and Sagittarius video. And just remember to also fill out the online form as well as making your payment on my monthly forecasting forum page. So you can ask questions in advance. This is especially valuable if you're not going to be able to join live. If you're watching this as a recording, I will answer all questions that are being asked in advance during the webinar. So just remember to fill out that form to let me know if you're joining live or if you want the recording, and please ask questions related to what we cover in the webinar, right? So ask questions about the energies that we're addressing, because this is most valuable to everyone who's watching. All right. Now, for my monthly forecasting forum fans who have already done forecasting forums before, but also for people who haven't done them before, my November special has been extended until December 15th. And that is that I'm offering a monthly forecasting forum package deal that offers 12 90-minute webinars between January and December of 2017. So every month in 2017. So for those of you who want to feel empowered throughout 2017 and have solid, continuous support all year long, I want you to take advantage of that deal. It's you saving almost $100 by purchasing that package deal for 2017. So feel free to check that out on my website. Again, astrologercoach.com. It's the November special that has been extended until December 15th. So take advantage as soon as you can. Again, all the questions from this video are also available on my website at astrologercoach.com via my weekly forecasts. And you can either go directly to my website and receive it there after December 11th, or you can sign up to receive them via email at info@astrologercoach.com. Subject line weekly forecasts, and my assistant will add you to that mailing list, and you will receive these weekly forecasts every Sunday evening. All right. Now you can also sign up for my newsletter if you like. That only gets sent out twice a month, and it includes special offers that I have every month, videos, announcements about my courses or my business. So feel free to sign up for that as well. Email us at info@astrologercoach.com and write newsletter in the subject line. And that way my assistant will be able to add you to that particular mailing list. Now, if you have any general questions about astrology or about this particular supermoon, feel free to email me at sonja@astrologercoach.com. General questions, I'm very happy to answer. If it's anything personal that requires of me to pull up your birth chart, I will invite you to book a reading with me on my website at astrologercoach.com. Or you can also join my monthly forecasting forum on December 13th. All right? So have a good one. Enjoy the extroverted energy of this supermoon, the interactions, but also allow yourself to slow down and go within and do some healing on a daily basis and get the support that you need. All right? Have a good one. This is Astrologer Coach Sonja Francis. Goodbye.